I took an overdraft out a few weeks ago because I didn't have enough money, and I was like, do you know what? I'll just figure it out. It'll be all right.
Hello and welcome. My name is Lars.
So the end goal is financial freedom.
Let me give you a tour of what I call home.
And I experienced a bit of trauma growing up as a kid because I was bullied for certain reasons.
What's your definition of success?
Everyone's like, well, you're not successful because you live in a van. You've got no money. How dare you be talking about finance? Absolutely. Success is not just a nice car. It's not just fancy clothes and a big bank account. Success to me is...
On today's podcast, I'm joined by Lars, who decided to follow his dreams when he had almost no money, no job, or any income sources. Now he lives in his van and makes money as a content creator while traveling the whole of UK in his micro van. There were so many moments in this podcast which I feel will resonate with a lot of you guys because he's just 24 and he has decided to do something which most people are scared to, and that is to follow his passions. Without further ado, I'm Jats and this is the Inspired Mind podcast. Alright guys, welcome to the podcast. On today's podcast, I'm with someone who I discovered as a guy who started reselling, buying stuff from Facebook Marketplace for free. Well, it's no one buying, it's just getting stuff for free and reselling it for a profit. And that was back in 2020. However, now things have changed with him and he's doing a lot of different things. And that's none other than Lars. So Lars, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Hey dude, what's up?
So first thing first, I met Lars first in 2020 once again. No, it was 2021, I think, last year.
It might have been 2021, yeah.
2021, yes. And that was the time when he was actually reselling for making a living and he wasn't into content creation and stuff like that. So I just want to start this podcast off by asking about your journey prior to reselling and what got you into reselling, like what inspired you to start doing that?
So I think growing up, it was like, the main thing that got me into reselling was I did a lot of car boot sales with my parents. I always wanted to, I had an entrepreneur mind. I always wanted to make money by myself, similar to you. And I was thinking, how can I make money? And I've tried out every online thing to make money. I've tested all of them out. None of them worked. And I thought, well, what does work? What about trying buying and selling? So I did a bit of buying and selling and then I got quite good at it. And then I did phones and then I did bikes. And then before you know it, I found my niche within furniture. And I was like, cool, let's give this a go. And then, yeah, like you said, free stuff into money. And I was making some pretty decent dough from it. So I thought, yeah, I'll stick with that for the minute. And that was that.
Makes sense. And in terms of what did you do prior to even you getting into reselling? Because I want to get back to the how you started your reselling journey later. But did you finish uni or did you finish college and then you straight were like, cool, let's go to a job? Or how did you start?
Yeah, so I took a part-time job whilst I was at college working for Tiger. It was like doing, I think it was a sales assistant, and it was part-time, but I ended up doing 40 hours a week plus college. I didn't take college seriously at all. I just basically did the bare minimum to get through and get my grades. And then I ended up doing that, stacking some money. And that's when I started doing a few flips here and there. And then from there onwards, I kind of transitioned into full-time employment as a sales rep for one of the gyms and realized that this wasn't really what I wanted to do, but I'll do it for the meantime because I need some money, And then a few jobs later, time happened, and then pretty much, will I say COVID?
Yeah, cool.
COVID hit.
Yeah.
And then I was basically decided I was going to be jobless and just do my own thing and see what happened, really. And then that's where the reselling really kicked off.
Okay, makes sense. And you mentioned something there, which was that you didn't have any interest in college. So I just want to quickly ask, what did you think many choices in your life were based on the education system? So for example, you going to a job and not straight starting a business, was it because of how we have grown up or how you were growing up?
This is a really interesting question. I find myself thinking about this a lot. I think the main thing for me, the only reason I did college was for my parents. I never really cared about the grades. I didn't really think the grades would determine my life. I didn't really believe in it too much. But I also knew that if I had that as at least a backup, it would keep my parents off my back because they just wanted what's best for me, right? So I did that. But I think the full-time employment was the only way I knew to make money quick, because it is the quickest way to make money in the grand scheme of things and the easiest. So that's kind of what I ended up doing, I think.
I think that's a really important point, is that most people think, oh, Jats, what's the best side hustle to start? I think the best side hustle to start first is getting a job.
A job, yeah.
Because
constant cash flow to start with.
Exactly.
And knowing that you've got a guaranteed paycheck at the end of the month.
Exactly. And that's something most people don't understand. So in terms of reselling, because there's many young students or young people out there, if someone's starting brand new, what would you say to them? Like, because you have stopped, right? But for someone to make money reselling, it's still a really good way. I mean, Gary
Vee. It's a really good hustle to do, absolutely.
Gary Vee's always doing his videos on it as well. So what are the steps you would recommend to get started, basically?
I would say the main thing is, as you've done in videos before, just sell stuff you've already got. If you've got stuff around the house, if you've got things like lying around, old phones, laptops, guitars, I don't know, bicycles, furniture, anything you can get rid of, start with that. And if you haven't got anything at home, I'm sure your parents do, your family does, your friends do. Someone somewhere will be giving something away for free, right? Start with that, sell it, get some cash flow, and then you're not investing your own money and it's only your time, and you will learn a lot from the first few flips you do. You'll probably realize what sells, what doesn't sell, how to make a better listing. And once you've got all that down, it's just, rinsing and repeating really, and then finding a way of getting good quality stock cheaper than what you can sell it for.
Yeah.
And that's kind of as simple as that, really.
I mean, that's literally a video on how to start reselling.
It's really basic, isn't it? There isn't really any secret sauce. No, there's no secret sauce. It's just being consistent and finding stuff.
And people really overcomplicate, and that's really good. So as I already mentioned, that you stopped reselling. Was there a specific reason, or was it just lack of enjoyment for you?
That's a really good question. I think too, the main reason was it wasn't going to allow me to attain my financial goals, and it wasn't giving me the lifestyle goals that I wanted because I was always working. Mm-hmm. So at the same time, you have to trade time for money to some degree, but I was trading all of my time for not as much money as I wanted. So I was making a lot, but I was also spending a lot of my time doing the same thing. So I wanted to build something more future-proof. And the thing is with reselling is once you stop selling, the money disappears. So it's not more of a consistent cash flow, Exactly. So that's why I ended up transitioning into other stuff down the line.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, it's basically a job technically. And talking about a job as well, in the Sun article, which you were mentioned on, I had a read at that, which was really nice. And I read the whole thing. And in there, you mentioned something really great, which was that no matter how much money a 9-to-5 job will pay you, you will never go back to one.
Nope.
And what?
It's not even an option anymore. I've actually completely taken it out of the option, because once you go back, it's so easy to get sucked into that consistent money, guaranteed income. And it's not just that, it depends on who you work with, but people and your surroundings will affect your mindset. And mindset is the most important thing, as I'm sure you're aware.
Yes.
Way more crucial than any money can buy. And you can't buy a mindset. It takes time to sharpen the blade or your mind to get it to the point where it's at. So that's why I'd never take another job.
And I think 9-to-5 is a comfort for people. I think that's the reason why most people choose it, because you coming here and it's 12 o'clock, I slept at 4 o'clock and doing all this, I think it's outside everyone's comfort, and but some people enjoy it. And if you enjoy it, that's not a problem. But yes, 100%. And as you mentioned, the surroundings and your mindset, I'm sure no one is born with a great mindset. What was the biggest factor to growing your mindset? And how was it books, or was there a specific moment in time which kind of flipped it and you're like, okay, this is it?
Do you know what? I don't want to go into too much of it, but I will say the people with the sharpest mindsets normally go through the most trauma. Yeah. And I experienced a bit of trauma growing up as a kid because I was bullied for certain reasons. And that gave me the edge of being comfortable being by myself because I was used to it. So that gave me a massive advantage that at the time I didn't think was an advantage. I kind of hated it. But as I grew up, being able to be by myself and just focus on my own thing and not have to be distracted by people gave me that, I guess, edge over other people. And the other thing was reading books, surrounding myself with positive people, and also cutting out a lot of people out of my life, which is the hardest thing you can ever do. But once you've done it, you're good to go. It's just pulling the trigger and accepting that if they're not bringing you anything of value, it's time to move on.
100%. And I think the part about cutting your friends who have been with you for like many years is probably the most difficult choice, but I guess it's the best choice for you as well. Yeah. So once again, your mindset is absolutely amazing, because the next thing, which I also read in the Sun article, was that you had £10 in your bank, if I'm not wrong, and you made the decision to go and live the van life.
Oh yeah.
How in the hell does one person think that, okay, this is a good idea to just, I have £10 in my bank, I have no idea what's going to happen, let's just leave.
Let's just do it.
What was your thought process through it?
My thought process was, well, if it all fails, I'll just sell my van and just start again from scratch. I wasn't too bothered. At this point, I was like, well, I either do it or I don't. I could wait until I've got 2-3 grand in the bank and then go and, live the cushy van life, or I just start with nothing and build my way up. And also, when you put yourself in that uncomfortable situation, you force yourself to grow. Regardless of what you're feeling, you were never going to be ready to do anything. So it's like either you do it or you don't. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to do it and see what happens. Stunt it.
That when I first saw your video and you just started living the van life, I'm like, holy crap, this takes some big balls to do as well.
Cheers, bro.
And when you took that decision, how much did you like have any source of income coming in, or was it just like
Not really.
nothing at all?
So I started living in my van in Reading, and I had about 50,000 followers on TikTok, which wasn't really enough to make anything substantial from. And YouTube was still really basically paying me like 50 quid a month tops from AdSense. So I didn't have a lot coming in, and that wasn't guaranteed money because it could have completely been taken away. And then obviously I didn't do reselling no more. So I was like, well, I'm gonna have to make it work. So the way it got started was I set off to Scotland with a tenner. I started sharing everything online as much as I could. And some really kind people like set up a PayPal donation. And I was like, I'm not doing that. I refuse. But then someone was like, when my family was like, just do it, because otherwise you're not gonna make it work. So I did. And then long story short, I received a couple of £100 in donations in the first couple of days. And that was the money that got me going. And that's what allowed me to get everything off the ground, really.
Wow.
So I'm grateful to everyone that donated, massively grateful.
Incredible. I mean, I saw your first video when you went first live as well. And I think you were in Scotland once again.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, this guy is actually living his life, but I don't know what's going on in his mind at the same time. Yes. I was like, I have no idea. But yes, as you mentioned, is that you have lived in the van in previously, and then you went back to living in a flat, and then you decided to go back to a van life. Is it just a thing which you're like, you know what? I think I don't belong to living in a flat and paying a crap load of money. And
I just thought, well, I was living in the flat with my ex-girlfriend, and I was working as a reseller. I had my business. I'd go to work all day, and I'd come home at sort of 9, 10 o'clock. We'd have dinner, go to bed, wake up and do it all the next day. And I think, well, why would I be paying my share, which was probably £500 or £600 a month plus bills and stuff on top every month when I'm never there? It made no sense to me. And I thought, well, it also saves me the time of going home every day because I've got everything in my van with me anyway. And then it was like, if I can save all that extra money, I can invest it into myself, my lifestyle, and improve, more skills and learn more and adapt, because that's what van life does for you. And it will kind of give me a head start. But going back to what you said, I can't envision myself, signing a 6-month or 12-month lease for a flat, because that means I'm stuck in one location, and I don't like that. I like just to be up, up and leave. Like today, I've just come here and just leave, And
I think now you're going to be heading up north, I guess.
Possibly. I don't know, mate. Like, someone could message me and be like, do you want to come and do this? And be like, well, I might be going to Ireland. I might go to Spain. I don't know. The world's my oyster,
Yeah, that's really great. And I think one thing you need in life when you take decisions like this is family. Did your family always have the support for whatever you were doing?
So I want to say yes, but I also want to say no, because they obviously want what's best for me 100%. They didn't support me in the way that you would sort of want support as this kind of thing, because they were all like, be careful, what if this happens, what if someone breaks into your van, what if. And when you're doing something like a lifestyle change along those sort of lines, you've already got enough self-doubt as it is. So when family include that on top, they want what's best for you. That's why they care. So they did. And as I started doing it and showing them that it was possible, and I've kind of built this social media stuff up, now they're like, fair play, we respect it. They don't say don't be careful no more. They're just kind of on board with it. So they were very supportive, but they also gave me a bit of self-doubt, which is sadly what family are going to do,
Yes, 100%. And I think everyone always has this question to every entrepreneur, I guess, out there. And I can call you an entrepreneur because you are one as well. And talking about entrepreneurship and social media, when you started your van life, you were on 50,000 followers. Now you're on TikTok, I believe, are almost 250,000 followers, which is 250,000 followers.
Slowly catching you up.
No, you're definitely going to catch up. So how do you make money as a content creator, which is what you are now, or digital creator? So what are the sources of income you would have to sustain your lifestyle now?
So the main one is brand deals. So a brand reaches out to me, they send me a product and they say, we'll pay you this much to promote it. I say yes or I say no. And I was doing that all by myself. And then it got to the point where I've actually got a brand manager now. So they take a 20% cut. They reach out to brands, they speak to brands, they hire it for me. And then I'm obviously told what to promote and what not to promote. That's my main source of income. Okay. I also have YouTube AdSense, which I'm trying to get more consistent with, because that would be quite a nice earner if I actually got on board with it. And then I have, what else do I have? I'm thinking like I've got a few investments, but that's more like long term. Yeah. And then the other main one is like the creative fund, and I get a bit of money from live streams. And I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about it, but recently I've just started a new venture, which is OnlyFans, if you want to call it that.
Okay.
And basically I class it as like modeling, because obviously it's a bit of a out there kind of subject, but I'm not doing anything that I wouldn't personally be okay with putting out there. And that's actually done some quite decent money, which I'll be doing a YouTube on soon.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. I mean, I did see that link and I'm like, is it right for me to talk about it on the podcast? And I'm like, but I guess as you have spoken about it, so because doing OnlyFans, people know it as a place where you see kind of people showing explicit pictures and everything. But I'm sure after doing some more research into it myself, I've seen so many people make a really good business out of it. There are people who make 6 figures in a day. That's £100,000 in one day through OnlyFans. Do you know anyone, or did you kind of do your research before you go on it, or is it just a platform where you can just get on and start posting?
I know of people. So I know someone that's making sort of 30k plus a month, and then I've actually met people in person that are making that sort of like 10 grand plus a month. And I thought, well, I don't need that much. If I can make a fraction of that, why not give it a try? And there was so much stigma around it and so many people saying, don't do it. You're going to completely ruin your brand. I thought, well, we've got to try it now, haven't we? Just see what happens. Because at the end of the day, the people that kind of get ahead are the ones that just go, well, do you know what? I'll just give it a try and see what happens. Yeah. I haven't put any nudes out. I haven't put any explicit content. It's literally pretty much just shirtless pictures, the occasional underwear picture. But where I make the bulk of my money is selling my underwear. So this is a funny one, right? Okay. This is a weird one. So I just wear underwear for a day or two. And my thought process was, well, rather than doing washing, I could just sell my dirty underwear and then they buy me a new pair. So, you know.
That's actually a really great business. I guess it's still reselling.
Yeah, man.
Well, okay, that's incredible. Now, as a content creator or as a businessman, I'm sure you won't have months where every month you're going to make a consistent cash flow, I would say. So what's your mindset or thought process in terms of finances every month? Because there are going to be months where you might not get a brand deal, or you might not make the best ad revenue, and you'll be like, okay, I
where's
need
my money coming from?
Where's my money coming from? So how do you handle with those situations? Because I think that's one thing which I personally have to think every single month. Like, okay, is it consistent?
Yeah.
Am I making money? So what's your thought process?
This is a tricky one because I'm speaking from personal experience from myself, because obviously a lot of people have a lot more responsibilities. I personally don't, because I live in my van. If everything fails, as long as I can obviously get just enough fuel to move it and park it somewhere, that's it. There's no other expenses other than insurance and tax. So then it brings the expenses down a lot. So there's not a lot of overheads going on. I haven't got anyone depending on me financially. So if it all goes wrong, I could then just find another way of making enough just to survive. So that's kind of where it's at. But in terms of consistency, yeah, it's really not consistent at all. I might get a massive brand deal that will cover me for a few months. So I'm sensible with money. But I've also kind of thrown that out the window now. I'm kind of learning about law of vibration more and law of attraction. And I'm trying to live a life that I don't already have, because that's what I want. So I spend money willy-nilly. Like if I want something, I spend the money, even if I don't have it. I took an overdraft out a few weeks ago because I didn't have enough money. And I was like, do you know what? I'll just figure it out. It'll be all right. Yeah. And it's worked out ever since. So it's one of those things that every situation will work out better than you expect, but you have to believe that it truly will. And believing, as I'm sure you know, is the key factor here. So I just trust the process and know that it's going to happen.
100%. And I think what you just mentioned there, which is about manifesting, I've shared this in one podcast I went to, that the 1.3 million followers I have on TikTok was manifested and it came to a reality.
Yeah.
I manifested the whole process of me reaching 1 million followers and it came to reality.
And you did it quicker as well, didn't you?
And I done it in like 2 months. So I was on 60K and after 2 months later, I was over 1 million followers, which is incredible.
It is mental.
Yes, it's a thing. And I think one thing important there, as you mentioned, is you must believe. You must, I think that even if you try and believe, the doubts will always be there.
Yeah.
But I think as long as you keep pushing yourself through, you will probably get there. And I think when
trust in the process, you know?
Yes.
When you get to the point where, you know, everything is not working and there's going to be so many, especially as creators, people trying to drag you down, hate. But the self-doubt is the thing I struggle with the most. When you throw the same content out there day in, day out, and people keep saying it's the same thing, nothing's changing, and you might plateau for 3 or 4 months, but then something's going to take off and it just will. And then when that is there, you can just keep going with it, can't you? And then you get to the next level.
It's funny how you mentioned about the person commenting, because I saw that comment as well, which was that, Lars, I don't say anything new in your day in a life. And I was looking at that comment and I was thinking, whenever as a content creator, when a hate comment comes through, no matter how much you try and avoid it, it still gets you a little bit. So how do you, because you're a content creator, and how do you deal with your mental health? Because sometimes some comments are actually something they hurt you as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think, we all put up thick skins, and I was always under the impression that I'm bulletproof, that the comments will not affect me. And in the beginning they didn't, because when you've not got that many followers, you get one or two,
trust me.
you can kind of deal with it. The first few really hurt, but then you can kind of deal with it. But then when you get to another level and you get so many of them, you just think, I'm having a bad day today. This ain't great. And my best advice is, as a creator, it's the hardest thing to do, take a break. Okay. Just shut down. It doesn't matter, because Gary Vee's spoken about it before, when you are not feeling it and you're just burnt out and you keep doing the same thing, and you're not there, why carry on doing it? Just take a massive 360, 180, whatever, shut down everything. Don't keep doing it if it's not working, and then just come back when you're feeling ready. And that's what I've done. And it's the best decision I ever made.
I think that is a really, really good point there, because I spoke with someone when I used to have a lot of burnouts, and that was the time when, as you mentioned, when you don't have many followers, you're fine. When you have a certain amount of followers, you're still fine. Mm-hmm. But once you get to a scale like yourself, you don't feel like opening the comment section, because you just feel like what's going to be there.
Yeah.
And that haunts you in the back of your head as well. And I think intentional breaks, that's what I was called, that you think you don't need a break, but you need a break.
You need a break.
And I think that's something I started doing and implementing in my life. And ever since, I've been in a much better mental space than I used to be. And I think from your sources of income, there was one thing which I wanted to mention, is that I think YouTube is something you should really grind into.
I know.
Because
so bad with it.
it's one of my biggest sources of income. And without that, I would feel like, oh my Lord, what should I like? There is no consistency except YouTube.
Yeah.
So I think one thing you should
absolutely
put all in is YouTube.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. And the next question is interesting, because it's again with content creation, and it's something I have done. But for you, from your perspective, I really want to hear it, which is that, do you think sometimes you get into this loop of making videos for views and not for videos which you want to make, just because you need to get brands, you need to make money and stuff like that?
Yeah, man. I literally recorded this yesterday. I was just literally talking about this, and it's so true. You get to the point where you know what's going to work. I know exactly what videos to make. Even if they are the same, you might get a couple of people say, it's the same thing every day, but they work. They hit, over 100,000 views, some of them over 1 million. And it's not hard to make, because I know exactly what I'm doing. But it gets boring, because it's not an inspirational video. It's not something that I'm proud of that I've created. It's like, the algorithm's going to love it. People are going to be like, they're going to comment like crazy, and it's going to blow up. It's going to, increase followers, make me more money. But it doesn't fulfill me. And that's something that I've taken a long time to understand. The longer you play the game, the more you focus on creating enjoyable content for people, and that you enjoy making for your soul, rather, you'll stick at it longer, and you end up making more money in the long term. Not in the short term. You might take 5 years to get to somewhere where like Jats is, for example, but you will enjoy the process that much more,
100%. And I think as a content creator, I agree with that so much, because I was in this space just a few months ago where I'm like, what am I doing right now? What am I doing? I
saw the videos on Instagram. Yeah.
I was done. I was like, there is no way I can continue doing this, because all the videos I was making, I knew they will get views. Yeah. I knew they will get so many likes, this and that, and it will help me grow. But also one thing I realized is that when you try and get views and get viral videos, you don't build a loyal community. Mm-hmm. And when you don't have a loyal community as a content creator, the community is useless, because in the future, if you try and monetize that community, you're not going to make any money at all.
Because people are just there for your viral videos. They're not there for you. 100%. So that's one thing I've tried to do, is a lot of my friends are like, why don't you just do that? And I'm like, it might get loads of views, but then people are, that's not me. I'm just going to build this for 10 years, see what happens. And then eventually it will either work out or it won't. And then I'll have to just take a job. Jokes, I won't.
do you think it's good to balance it though? Balance between both? Because I have tried doing that, but I still always lean to the viral videos, and me too.
I do it because I'm like thinking about my day in the life today. What should I do to make it viral? And I'm like, that's just such a pointless thing to do in some respect.
But at the same time, you need that.
You do. I know it's a catch-22 really, that one, because I think once you've got enough income coming in and you're taken care of and you're comfortable, really play around with your content. Find what you enjoy creating the most and people connect with the most. Because Stephen Bartlett said in his podcast, didn't he? Rather than focus on the magnitude of the views, focus on the reach of the content, like how much of an impact it's going to have on people's lives. And I think that's key for me. Yes. Way more important.
And his podcast is something else. It's like the amount of value you get from just one podcast. I watched one and I was like, okay, I'm hooked.
Yeah,
I'm hooked.
Gotta watch more.
He has 100%. And the way he just gets the right information, which relates to everyone as well, is really nice as well about him. And once again, going back to your Sun article, there was another thing which kind of surprised me because of your age, which was that you said, I'm going to spend the rest of my life on the roads. And I believe you're 24.
I'm 24, yeah.
You're 24. So being 24 and you know life is long and you making that decision from now, how do you think you really look that far in life? Because obviously you're going to eventually have kids, marriage and all of that. So do you still plan to carry on living the van life?
Do you know what? That article was taken, I think, 4 or 5 months ago. And as you know, as you evolve as a person, as change comes into your life, a lot of your goals in the future will eventually end up changing a bit. So I think that was just at that time, I was like, yeah, I'm definitely set on van life for life. But I think life on the road for me means not settling. So not so much just living in a van. It could be backpacking. It could, because eventually I do want some sort of base. I want some sort of like a tiny house just to call home. But I don't want to just settle and be like, okay, I'm just going to stay here because that's what I'm supposed to do. I know what's right. I trust my gut a lot and I just roll with it. So if marriage is on the cards, cool. I haven't met the right person yet, but if they turn up and want to have marriage and get kids, cool. And a lot of people ask me, yeah, but what if they say that you have to live in a house? Well, if they tell me what I have to do, I'm not going to marry them because that's not who I am. So they will probably come into my life and understand me and just accept me for who I am and be like, if they want to join, cool. If they don't, then that's cool too, you know?
100%. And I think one important thing which you mentioned was goals do change in life as well. And sometimes your why in life changes as well, like why you're doing this as well. Because I was doing it for my parents, then I could be doing it for my kids. And one thing about goal setting, do you believe in goal setting? Because it's a topic which is like
controversial a little bit.
It's a controversial one because for content creators it's really tough. You could be setting a goal which is I want to hit 1 million followers on TikTok, but then you're looking at that goal and be like, what happens after that?
Yeah,
what happens? It's going to be
what
10.
What happens after? It's so funny because everyone we're talking about, I was literally just thinking about all this yesterday. It is because we set goals like, oh well, I want to hit this many followers by this time or this many videos by this time, and I think for me, the only goal I really have now is getting the finances in check. Not so much for the reason that I wanted when I started. I just wanted a nice car, fancy clothes, expensive holidays, and a big bank account just to be like, when I was obviously growing up, I didn't have any of that and I wasn't liked. And now it'll be like, well, basically, look at me. But I don't care about that anymore. Now it's just how much money can I make to be comfortable, to do loads of fun stuff all the time and never have to be like, oh, I can't afford it. And then take care of my family. Can I take them on holiday? Can I buy them their house if they need it? Can I get them out of debt? And that would be really cool. And then meeting people like us when we started our journeys, going onto someone's live stream and just being like, I believe in you, there's 500 quid, and just send it to them and be like, someone did that for me.
Oh, wow.
Someone did that for me on a live stream when I was in Scotland. So I was cooking my meal and this guy was like, what's your PayPal details? And I'm thinking, yeah, right. As if someone's going to send that kind of money. No, he did on a live stream. Someone sent me £500. And that literally allowed me to travel for like nearly a whole month in Scotland. So being able to do that for someone else, pass it forward or pay it forward would be amazing. And that's why I want to make loads of money. So goals, I believe in them, but I think it's also about discipline, isn't it? And what you do on a daily basis to get to where you want to get to. And because we're creators, we are filming our lives constantly. Yeah. So we are constantly seeing what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. So we're learning from ourselves and we're constantly evolving. So I think we'll hit the goals anyway, but you do have to have some sort of, I guess, direction, you know, because if you haven't got anything, then what you're kind of striving for, you're kind of just doing stuff for the sake of it. So you've got to have some sort of goal, I think.
I think there's a good analogy of the GPS. It's like, if you want to go from here to Birmingham, you need to set the location or else you don't know where you're going. And I think that's the only reason why I kind of have goals. I set goals. But one important thing I learned about goal setting is that to set goals which are under your control. So for example, setting a goal which is, I need to gain 1 million followers by the end of this year. Rather than setting that as a goal, why can't you set a goal saying, by the end of the year, I need to post 3 videos every single day? Yeah. Because if you do that, that brings in consistency and discipline. And talking about discipline, I'll come to motivation after. But
just before we get into that, I've just thought about the goals thing. I think for me, it's a vision. So the vision, the end goal for me is financial freedom, traveling as much as I possibly can and want, and enjoying the process of meeting amazing people like yourself, you know, going to podcasts, doing fun stuff and just being like, I'm going to say yes to things that literally terrify me because it'll be fun. Yeah. So the vision is that. And I think that the goals kind of align to that vision, but the vision never changes, but the goals might change as time progresses.
And the keyword there was doing stuff you which terrifies you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you can keep doing this stuff which terrifies you every single day, you will get to where you want to be, no matter what.
You can't fail if you don't give up.
Yes. Oh, yes. My favorite quote of, I think it's in Think and Grow Rich, is that winners never quit and quitters never win. Yes.
Yeah. Winners never quit and quitters never win. Is that right? That is right, I think.
Yes.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, that is right. So that's great. And I think seeing your journey just in van life has inspired me to actually start traveling as well. So what's the tip you would give me in terms of traveling in a van, I guess? Because when I think of traveling in a van, I went once Lake District with my friends and we were camping. And I don't think that life is for me. But van life is something, whenever I think of it, it gives me that thing like, why don't you give it a try?
Yeah.
It's actually going to be fun.
It's really fun. It's hard, it's easy,
so
it's fun.
That's what I was going to come after the fun part, is that there are going to be stuff which you can't, as a person on the other side of the screen, won't know about it.
Yeah.
So what are the hard things you learn, and something which teaches you about life as well, I guess, in a way?
I think some of the hardest things I've personally faced is putting myself on the internet. So for safety reasons, I don't tell people exactly where I am anymore. And people are like, why are you lying to us where you are? So I kind of keep it very vague. Like if I'm going to somewhere like near London, I'm going to London, because I don't want people looking for me. Because I get pictures of my van sent to me all the time. People being like, is that you in your van? That's not a problem as long as they're nice people, but I don't know who's out there. So that's one, safety. The other thing is everything takes a long time. So doing things like your washing, you have to drive to a laundrette and then you've got to stay there whilst your clothes are being done. Otherwise people might run off with your clothes. Doing your dishes, it just takes a little bit longer. But the trade-off is you can go and do your dishes on the top of a mountain if you want to, or by a beach. If it's sunny outside, you can cook outside. So there's loads and loads of positives to it. But the hardest things, I think, is the size of my van, because it's a micro camper. Yeah. I can't even sit up straight. I can't stand up in it. Putting things like skinny jeans on is a nightmare.
I've seen some of your videos where you're wearing your front seat and you're trying to get it on.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things where there's those hardships, and I guess, like, how are you going to finance it? That is, for me personally, not a hard thing, but I think a lot of people will find that as a tricky thing to think of. But there's so many jobs available that you can do online now, remote jobs. You can be a graphic designer, you can be a content creator, you can be a podcast editor if you really wanted to. And there's people that literally chop up like clips like we're filming now, and you can just, make quite good money doing that.
Yes.
So I think that's the hardest things that I've found, or maybe showering as well, but other than that.
100%. And I think
it's not even that hard. It's just hard in the beginning. When you learn it, it becomes normal,
I think it's like everything in life, as in the start, everything is hard, but even editing, and editing is definitely a good skill to have for anyone out there wanting to make money. I would literally hire anyone who knows how to edit properly.
Yeah, me too. Eventually.
Yes. I think that's one thing as a content creator which you would want to hire first thing.
I don't like editing very much.
It is. I tried editing the first vlog after like 1 year. I posted on my Instagram, and oh my Lord, it took me a whole day just to chop up clips and add some music. I did not even edit it properly. Do
you know the hardest thing, I think, editing your own videos is there's certain stuff that you leave in because you're proud of it. Yeah. And people watching that don't want to see it. I'm not being funny.
That guy there, right there.
Yeah?
Yeah. So I left some of the clips in my video, which I thought were funny. Yeah. Like you would think it's funny, but they were just not funny.
They're just not funny.
What do you think? Is it because we have a bad taste? But then I always argue with myself saying, but I'm the content creator. Yeah. I know what works. Yeah. So why should I listen to him? But then at the same time, I'm like, he's the audience, so I should be listening to him as well.
So it's like, if you can get an external person to chop up a video in the way that it's going to be consumed by other people that aren't yourself, it will probably do better. So that's what I've learned for me, is people's attention span on TikTok is zero. So as soon as I start waffling a little bit, it's not going to get watched. So just chop it out. It might be really good value content in a long form video, but chop it out. And that's the saddest thing with TikTok, is a lot of it can be taken out of context because you haven't got the full picture.
Yes, 100%. And I don't know why I keep saying 100%. It's a thing about me.
Gravy.
Whenever I'm on a podcast or whenever I'm making a video, whenever there's a phrase which I start saying, I keep repeating the same phrase for the whole thing.
Consistency, bro.
Consistency, definitely. And talking about TikTok as well there, how did you grow on TikTok? So someone here wanting to become a content creator, I wouldn't say how to grow on TikTok. I would say, what are the steps they should take to become a content creator? Because it's not easy, but it's definitely a career which is now going to be a big thing eventually down the line as well, upcoming years, because brands are really looking for influencers to promote their products and stuff like that. So someone
even just to touch on that subject, even if you don't want to become a content creator, you can be a UGC creator.
Yes.
So you can create content for brands without having a following. So you just make a video on a product or on a service and you send it to the brand and then they pay you for it.
Yeah.
Not as much as an influencer would make, but if you're consistent and work with enough brands, you can cash in big time on that. And all you need to really do is film video and edit.
100. See, I was just about to say 100%. But yes, I think I also made a video about it. How UCG, user generated content, UGC. UGC is going to be
a big thing.
It's going to go big because one, brands don't want to pay a lot of money to influencers because sometimes, yes, certain influencers they will pay, but then if they can get the same type of video from a person who doesn't have a following, but they can make a good quality video.
Make it organic, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's just an
and
organic
I think
ad.
I know a person who makes like 500 to 600 pounds per 30-second video. Imagine spending your day to make a 30-second video and getting 600 pounds, which is someone's weekly wage, which they have worked 40 hours for. So I think that's great. And so now going back to the content creation, what are the steps you would say, or what are the social media platforms you would recommend a person to get started with?
I'm going to try and break it down and keep it as simple as possible. I think the easiest concept is just start. And that sounds ridiculous. People are like, yeah, but that's obvious. It is, but most people just try and perfect the whole thing. I'm the perfectionist. I'm sure you probably are in some aspects of your videos. Post it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Get the first one out there. The first few are going to be probably quite terrible. I'm not going to lie to you. My first few videos were awful. They get better as time goes on. And then what people look at is people like myself and Jats is like, oh, they're at a point where I can't reach. Yeah. I've been doing content for 3 years, mate. The first year was terrible. The second year was pretty terrible. And the third year, towards the end of that year, it started to finally all come into place. All the skills I've learned started to add up and stack on each other and compound. And then I'd post a video and it'd actually do quite well because of all those other skills that I didn't know how to fit them into the process worked. But you don't need to find your niche.
Yeah.
Just trial and error in the beginning, see what happens. And then you've got to learn each platform. Each platform is different.
It's different.
That's what I've learned a lot. So I've spent a lot of time on Instagram Reels recently, and I'm learning that a lot of it is emotional stuff. It's like either motivation, people talking about their loved ones, or nice sunsets. But the reason something like a nice sunset won't just do well unless it's amazing sunset is because it's been done a million times.
Yeah.
How can you be different? Nothing is saturated. But if you keep doing the same thing, the same as everyone else, why are they going to watch your videos over someone else unless your personality is like top notch?
Yes.
Which in the beginning, when you're a creator, you're not comfortable on camera.
Even my personality right now is like, I can't embrace my personality on the camera.
It takes time, doesn't it?
100%.
It's really hard to learn. And like, people look on the camera and think, oh, these creators must be so amazing in person. But actually, a lot of us are quite shy in person. We're not really sure what we're going to be doing. But you get used to talking to a camera. When you get comfortable on talking to a camera, the rest will take care of itself.
Yep.
So I think don't pick a niche, get comfortable talking to the camera, accept it's going to take so long to learn it, and then just play it for the long game. Don't play it for like I'm going to get rich quick in a year.
And I think most people have a problem where they compare their first day to someone's 365th day. And I think that's where they go wrong as well. And one key lesson there was that if you just stick to it, you will see results. And I think, I don't know if you know this guy called Alex Hormozy. He's really been popping
business
up.
guy.
Business guy.
Yeah,
yes.
I do know who he is.
Yes. So he there was a great video he made where he said if you stick it for 30 days, you'll be great. But if you stick it for 90 days, you'll be even better. And if you stick it for, I think, some amount of years, you'll be unstoppable. Like you will see results no matter what. It's all about just staying consistent. Yep.
But like anyone can be a content creator, and that's the thing. Why should you stand out over other people? Anyone can do this. Anyone, because pretty much everyone's got a smartphone these days. You just press record. So you don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Yep.
You don't need to come up with a new concept. But can you take an existing concept and do something really unique with it? Someone like Francis Bourgeois, I think is how you pronounce his name, the guy that does trains. Have you seen him? He's got a GoPro strapped to his face and he's got this crazy angle.
And people love it.
People love it.
People love it
because it's different, but it's like a really simple concept, but it's very different.
Yeah.
That's my approach I took to van life. I was like, well, not many people live in micro campers. And not many people show a different perspective and do a different style of video. They all just show the interior and like, you know, it's like all text on the screen. It's all the same. How can you stand out and be different? And then I started playing around with the voiceovers and doing silly like ups and downs in the audio tonation.
I realized that first and I'm like, why is
he talking like that?
Yeah. And I'm like, at first point it triggered me. I'm like, why is he doing that?
Why are you doing that? Yeah.
And then when you made a video on why you're doing it, I'm like,
that's quite smart, yeah.
I should start implementing that into my own.
Because it's just, if you speak monotone and you keep talking like this for a whole period of time, you probably start to drop off and get bored. But if you speak up and down and low and add intonations and add a bit of like, I don't know, spice to the video, if you will, it keeps it enjoyable and fun to watch.
Yeah. And I think as a content creator, the one thing you want to do is keep the videos engaging. So that
Drip feed value into the video. So if you've got something amazing to say, don't say it straight at the beginning. You obviously, the key part is the hook. Especially on TikTok, the first sort of, I'd say even less than 3 seconds, the first 2 seconds are crucial. If you don't grab someone's attention, they're going to scroll straight past you. And then you've got to keep drip feeding value into the video. So it can't just drop off after 5 seconds and then the rest of the video be boring. How can you make the video consistently engaging and keep adding value in?
Yeah. And the complex word for that is average view duration. You would want to make sure the person watching that video is watching the entire video. Well, at least 70% of that video, and that video goes viral. Now we're actually moving on from that to something I call the Inspired Mind. Well, the Inspired Mind is the name of the podcast.
Yeah.
Inspired Mind 7 deep questions. They're not really deep, but it's just...
Okay, far away.
So there's 7 questions. The first question is, what motivates you to work hard?
Oh, this is a good question. I think for me, the key thing was when I was a kid growing up, again, I was never accepted. I never fit in at all. And I always wanted to fit in. And then as I realized that standing out is the best thing you can possibly do, the things that make you, the unique things that you're scared about, that you feel insecure about, are your superpowers. Embrace them. So I think for me was proving to younger Lars, who wasn't liked, who was bullied, who was really terrible talking to women, had no money, had no sort of, and all the teachers told him he had no ambition, he wasn't going to go nowhere in life. I was like, well, I'm going to prove you all wrong. So that for me was a big motivating factor. And I think now it's just making the most of why we're here. We don't know how long we're here. I could just drive back now and that could be the end of my life, mate. So make the most of it while you're here.
Really good answer. And I think...
enjoy your time.
I think, yes, most people don't live in the present.
No.
And I recently saw one of your posts, you're like, sometimes you forget to live in the present.
Yeah.
You're so caught up in the next thing, the next big goal. This,
as creators, it's easy to do that.
Yes.
You know,
it's like every day I fall into that trap and then I have to bring myself back to reality and be like, okay, we're here. Let's enjoy this moment.
Learn to appreciate the small things.
Yes.
Something like a sunset or a sunrise or a conversation with a genuine human, not over a screen. People are like, why are you never bored?
Yeah.
Well, that's why, because I've learned to appreciate the small things. They are far more valuable than having millions of followers on TikTok or whatever, because that's a number on a screen. That could go away tomorrow. But things like, investing into people and yourself and time, it's forever.
Meeting new people, building those relationships. That's where everything is. The second question is, what's your definition of success?
Oh, this is a good question. I love this question because everyone's like, well, you're not successful because you live in a van. You've got no money. How dare you be talking about finance? Absolutely. Success is not just a nice car. It's not just fancy clothes and a big bank account. Success to me is being happy as much as possible, being kind wherever possible, doing the right thing, and being true to myself. I think that's the key thing for me, being true to myself. And there were times I wasn't, and I was doing things for the wrong reasons. That's why I also didn't like reselling so much. But
being a good human being.
Yeah, just being a genuine human,
Yeah.
Doesn't cost a lot, does it?
Really love that. I think that's something which many people will resonate with, because most people think success, the word means being rich.
Yeah.
It's just about rich.
But being rich can also be life experiences, being rich, in other ways.
And I think, oh, wow, that was a really good one there as well. Yes. So moving on to question number 3. I love these answers, by the way. So what's your end goal? What are you doing all this for? Like, so you have vision.
Yeah.
But where do you reach and be like, okay, now here I am.
I feel like that's never going to happen.
Never going to happen.
We like to think it will happen, but it won't.
But it won't happen.
Because why do rich keep people getting richer? If we don't go into too much detail here, the rich keep getting richer, not necessarily because they want to, but because they can't stop playing the game.
Yeah.
Once you are in this, it's a game. People think that business is, some people take it really seriously, some people don't. I think the people that do the best treat it as a game that you can never stop playing. It becomes an addiction.
And I think the other part of that is that if you stop doing something you have been doing, what do you do in life?
Yeah, what do you do?
You get bored.
Arnold Schwarzenegger said this. He's like, people are like, why do you keep going to the gym when in your 60s? Well, because I eat my breakfast every day, so I go to the gym every day. It's like his normal routine.
It's part of him as well now.
So the end goal is financial freedom. That may be, 10, 20K a month. And people think that's mental. When you start looking into really how you can earn money and leverage and stuff.
I'll tell you for a fact that is not mental.
It's very possible, isn't it? Very achievable.
Yes, very achievable.
And for my goals, that's probably going to be plenty. But eventually I will probably want to make more just to sort of help people around me. And then again, do the thing like I said earlier, give back to the community, to people that have helped me, even if it's not directly to them, to people that are aspiring to do something awesome. I'd love to be a part of their journey,
I think if you stick to this content creation game, 10, 20K is nothing.
Yeah.
It's nothing.
I think that.
If you reach a certain amount of followers on TikTok, one brand can pay you like 8, 10 or 5, 10. So I think one thing is that it's a really small goal. So you might want to increase it.
I agree, but it's also like...
But then
do you know what? The
your
point,
lifestyle.
there's a point to where making more money will not increase your lifestyle.
I think it was $70,000 or $90,000.
Yeah.
One of those that once you reach this amount, your happiness don't increase.
That's exactly it. And the thing is, like, for example, myself, I'm a one-man band. I might have a video editor. That's probably about it. And a brand manager. That's it. I don't want to have loads of people emailing me every day being like, what this, what that. I just want to be able to take time off when I want it. So like if I want a break, mate, I shut up shop. And people are like, where's he gone? But when I come back, people are always excited and they always come back and watch me, you know? So I think that's for me, getting to a financial point where I can control the time. And if I want to take 3 months off and just disappear, I can do that.
Yeah, that's a really
So that's it. So once you get to 20K a month, I think there's more, but then the stress goes up. And I watch like Jack's Amazon Club, yourself, other creators and other people in different sort of calibers of life, shall we say. And I just think, I don't want all of that. I admire it and I respect the hell out of it, but I wouldn't want to do it personally. I just like that I can disappear in my van and just no one knows where I am.
I'll be honest. I think most people don't see the part which you have just mentioned is that the more money you make, the more stress you will get as well. Like today I wanted to sleep so much, but I couldn't.
You can't.
I had to come here because I have other people here who are going to be here looking for me, need questions to be answered and stuff like that. So I have to be here. And sometimes I think I'll reach a point where I'll be jealous of your lifestyle. But at the moment, I think I'm enjoying it because we all have this thing which we love doing as well.
But as we get older as well, you know, we learn more about what we actually truly want out of life. And that's the thing for me, van life provided. It wasn't just a sort of a lifestyle to create content around it. It's also put me on a massive spiritual and emotional journey. I've dealt with a lot of trauma that I didn't want to deal with. And it's also made me even more empathetic person than I was. And I value people now a lot more than I value things like, you know, earning money or working more hours or making more, because it doesn't really mean anything at the end of your life. You're not going to lie on your deathbed and be like, oh yeah, I wish I'd made more money. You're going to be like, I wish I'd spent more time with so-and-so. I wish I'd spent more time with this person, experienced that, gone to this country, you know? So that for me is the end goal, is just to do things that have a true meaning to me.
This question is not going to be part of the 7 questions, but you mentioned about trauma in the start and right now. So I know it's hard to overcome a trauma which you have dealt. And how did you go through that process of overcoming and then becoming a person who you are today?
Accepting it. So for me, getting bullied was never really that big of a deal. And I didn't think it was. And then as I started to think about it and talk about it more, people were like, yeah, me too. And, you know, you've inspired me to do this. And I just, looking back, it made me a very tough person. You can either take your trauma and, you know, give up and just sit in the corner and cry about it, which is a genuine thing to do. I empathize with people because I've been there. You know, I've been in that point where I can't continue and I've had to take a break. But if you can turn it around and use it as fuel and ammunition to get yourself to another point, it's really, really powerful. It gives you like a whole new level of motivation and discipline that most people just can't get. It's like, so if you use trauma in a good way, but overcoming it is talking about it, understanding it, and really diving into the reason why it happened in the first place and how you can prevent that, I think.
Really good answer. Thank you for that.
No,
it will help a lot of people watching this podcast right now as well. The next question is, what life lesson did you learn the hard way?
Oh, this is a good one. I think I'm going to say investing.
Investing.
I was an absolute idiot, a naive idiot when I invested first. I just thought, oh yeah, well, these people are investing in this. Let's invest in that.
Let's invest in that.
So
and the next day you see the market's gone all the time.
Oh yeah. So I think my biggest lesson for investing was SNDL, which I think is Sundial Growers, right? So I think was it Wall Street pumped it up, but I didn't realize. So one of my old work colleagues was like, "Oh, you should have a look at SNDL." So I did, and I bought a bunch of stock, and it didn't do anything. So I sold it, and then it boomed. And as it started to boom, I thought, "Oh, this is brilliant. Let's hop on the train." Bought it, must have made a couple of grand on it, and then it got to the peak, and I thought, yeah, no, to the moon, mate, to the moon. It's going to keep going, yeah. And it didn't, and then it just kept going down. And I think overall, I ended up losing about 3 or 4K, which was pretty much all the money I'd made reselling.
Wow.
That I'd stacked as like a savings account. Vanished. So what you learn with investing is trying to not time the market. And I don't want to do like financial advice or anything like that, but you know, don't time the market. And so investing was one. And another lesson, because I want to add another one in, is value your time more. So many people just think, oh yeah, well I get paid £10 an hour. That's what my time's worth. Wow. I don't care if I'm earning £50 or £500 an hour now, but I value my time a lot higher than that. Even if I'm not earning it, that is what my time is worth to me. And yours should be too.
It's crazy to think that the least thing you have in your life is the thing you value the least.
Yeah.
In
So like
life
you've got
as
less time.
Yeah.
Money is infinite. You can make as much of it as you want.
Yeah, and sometimes I think about the logic of how this world works. Is that people will literally work for £8-10 an hour.
Yeah.
And they will not spend time with their kids. Or obviously, it makes sense if you are in that
different situations.
If you're in that situation, but most people, I feel like, if you live in the UK, we all have this opportunity, which we can take.
Yeah.
If you're educated, to change your life. But I guess most people are just lazy.
Do you know what? I don't know if I believe in necessarily laziness. I think it's fear.
Fear, yes.
Because so many people, laziness, there is a degree of
Yes.
that, but a lot of people are just afraid of taking the leap. And at the end of the day, I think the biggest risk is not taking any risks at all.
Yes.
If you've got the opportunity and you are young and you're ambitious and you don't have anyone depending on you, if you mess up in the next 10 years, you can just go back to zero and start again. But you're not starting from zero this time, you're starting from experience. Because every lesson you've learned will aid you in the next business, the next venture, the next chapter in your life.
This was perfectly put as well. I cannot agree more with that. I think rather than laziness, it's fear. And I think if I see myself back then, one thing which was the biggest thing in the back of my head was fear.
Yeah.
Fear of what if I fail?
Yeah.
What if this doesn't work out?
What if they judge me?
Yes.
What if? But all those what ifs, they may happen, they may not.
Yeah.
And I think you'll find now that since you've started your journey, that a lot of it actually hasn't happened.
It doesn't happen. And there's this thing I always say is that it always turns out better than what you think.
Yeah. Always works out better than you expected.
Yeah.
Always.
And I think for the next question, I already know the answer. But would you be rich and unhappy or poor and happy?
Oh, definitely poor.
Poor and happy, isn't it? I think one thing I realized is that whoever I meet, once they've started making some amount of money or they've actually left this 9-to-5 matrix, if you want to call it Andrew Tate. We all kind of choose happiness over money any day.
Yeah.
I will till date choose being poor and happy.
Yeah.
Because I think the satisfaction you get from just being happy is something which is unmatchable.
Priceless. You can't put a price tag on happiness, can you?
Yeah.
I 100% agree with that. People that go around saying, oh, well, would you not rather cry in a Lamborghini than in a bus? Nah. I would rather cry in the bus because I got all my mates with me or people that I value. So it's finding a balance, isn't it? I think you could be rich with a poor mindset or you could be poor with a rich mindset.
Rich mindset, yes.
So once you've got the rich mindset, you will value everything more: money, time, people, experiences. But if you're poor and you're just, trying to put other people that are doing stuff down, then you're going to have a really kind of terrible life, really.
Yeah, I cannot agree more with that. And I think that's something I'm learning. Even after I gained a certain amount of money, I was in a situation where I was like, I don't feel happier.
Yeah.
Like when I was making 1,000, I was more happier than I am at making 10,000.
I agree.
What's happening?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's something I learned the hard way as well. Now the next
because you were enjoying it, weren't you?
Yes. Back in the days, it's like I pull out the phone, I record myself, I'm documenting everything. It's just so much fun.
It's all new. It's all exciting. It's that start of that journey, and this is what I was going to say to you. Enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh yeah, that's so cheesy. It is. But if you can enjoy the journey and play it for the long game, you will. When you get to your goal, it's like, well, what's that? You've done it.
Yeah.
What's next?
And I think doing this podcast is a example for me. Is like, I don't care if this podcast gets 10 views, 100 views, or 1,000 views. I don't even care if this podcast ever gets monetized or not. But for me, it's all about just meeting the people.
Enjoyment.
Yeah, speaking with them. Because I get bored and I'm like, how am I improving myself? Sometimes I don't like reading books. So I'm like, what's the best way I can learn and get better as well? And I was like, podcast is the way I can meet new people. I can learn from their experiences. And that's why I'm here.
But something you've got over a lot of people, because I meet a lot of people on the road, open mind.
Yeah.
You are not just seeing what I'm saying from your perspective, you're seeing it from my perspective. If you can put yourself in someone else's shoes and get rid of that filter that your brain pretty much shuts stuff that you don't like straight down and just go, hang on a minute, let me actually think about what they've just said. I don't like it, but wait, let's just think about it.
Yeah.
And understand it first before you completely shut it down. Like, you tell someone that is earning £1,000 a month that if you do this, that, and the other, you could be making 100K plus a month. They will think you're nuts, and they will be like, "Yeah, don't tell me that's a load of rubbish." But it's because they're instantly shutting it down because they're seeing it from their perspective. All they've seen possible is that 1,000 a month. But if you open your mindset up and you meet the right people, you realize a lot more is possible than you think.
Yes, and I think I cannot agree more with that, because there was a time when I thought making £5,000. I still remember 2020, my goal was making £5,000 a month. I calculated all my costs and I'm like, all right, if I have £5,000, I'm living the best life.
I'm a king, mate.
I'm a king.
I'm rolling.
Then slowly, end of 2020 came, the goal was 10,000. I'm like, bro, 10,000 pounds.
That's so much money.
That's like 10 months of my dad working, or like 8 months of my dad working, and I'm making 10,000 pounds. We reach 10,000 pounds. Then the next goal is 50,000. We reach 50,000. Next goal is 100,000. But I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Like, what is happening? As I'm progressing through these goals, I'm just not happier.
It's just there.
Yeah.
It becomes normal.
Yeah.
And when you're first starting out, 100K sounds impossible.
Yeah. And I think,
But it's not.
I don't even know why I went to the other topic of not being happy. But yes, I think just opening your mindset towards big numbers
Yeah.
is the number one thing you need to do. Because
Big goals.
we just live in a world where we think making £10,000 is so big, but it's not.
Yeah.
In today's world, it's literally not. You can make £10,000 in the next 6 months if you pick something and stick to it consistently and just just go all in.
Yeah, just while we're on the subject as well, I think for anyone listening at home or wherever you're listening from in that sense, is don't let people that aren't doing what you do talk you out of doing something.
Yes.
Like if your teachers tell you can't be a footballer, well, they definitely can't because they're teachers. If they don't want to, that's cool. But if you want to be a footballer, do it. Don't like set your goals and limitations because someone else has told you, even your family. Like you've got to respect family always. But the best decision I made, and I'm sorry, mum and dad, if you're listening, was not listening to either of them in some respect and doing what I wanted to do. Because I know for a fact I would resent them later on in life.
Yes.
They told me to play it safe and do this, that, and the other. And I did that. And I'd be like, well, what if I'd done this? What if? And I just thought, you know what? I'm going to scratch that itch because otherwise it's going to haunt me later on. So if you want to do it, do it.
Yep. And I think Gary Vee, as you know, he always says that, and people make fun of it, but they don't understand the perspective he's trying to say from. But moving on to the next question.
Sorry.
No, that was incredibly put as well. It's the second last question, and it's a weird one, but what are 3 things you would like to change in this world?
Ooh.
I think I would say
really hard, actually.
One thing I will add in that is probably the education system.
Do you know what it is and it isn't? Because as I've gone on this journey, it's a catch-22, isn't it? So I realized that, the Matrix is definitely real. We're all in this kind of world where our life's kind of like dictated for us, really. If you follow rules and you follow orders, that's kind of where you get to. But if there wasn't that, we'd all go mad.
Yes.
We'd all be crazy because there'd be no order. There'd be not everyone thinks the same.
Yes.
So unless there's a sort of a system, as much as I don't necessarily like the system or agree with it.
But what if the system was better?
It could be better, but then, I think in some, definitely, I think you've got me there. I think definitely it could be better. The reason there's not like finances stuff taught at school is because if everyone knew how to make their own money, then who would do the jobs? Who would go to Tesco and stack the shelves? Who would work in McDonald's? I'm not saying these are bad jobs, by the way, because I've done some of them, but who would be wanting to do that? Because they'd be like, yeah, but I can make 100K a month doing content, mate. Why am I going to do that? So the system is like a catch-22. I would change it, but I also kind of wouldn't change it. Yeah. And I wouldn't want to be the one to change it because I don't have the answer.
I've had many people tell me it's like if everyone was a business owner who's going to clean the roads and stuff and like that, and I'm like, that's a good point there as well.
It's a catch-22 in this one,
yeah.
So 3 things I would change.
It could be anything in your own life as well. I mean, whatever you see from your perspective in this world.
I think there should be more kinder people. People should be less selfish, right? And selfless. Don't do things for yourself, do them for other people. If you don't, or do something without expecting anything back. Someone very recently taught me this. I did it in relationships as well, stuff like I just do nice things for them and expect things back. If you can just give without any expectation, you're truly doing it for the other person. If you are making content because you want to go viral and you want to be a somebody, you're not doing it for other people, you're doing it for yourself.
Yep.
So be less selfless, I think it is. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah. I would change that. I think I would definitely, people that are doing a really difficult task like the NHS, police officers, firefighters, people that are literally saving lives should be paid more, 100%.
Yep.
They should have a lot more job perks than they currently have, and they should be treated with more respect. Definitely.
100%. Yes.
And third, I
mean, third is the education, I guess.
We'll go with the education system with like a catch-22 version of it.
It's a really good argument there. I don't know who's ever going to win that argument.
I tell you what, actually, education system, I got it. I think that there should be more options.
There should be more options,
because
yes.
There's so many entrepreneurs. I hated school. I disliked it massively because I didn't want to learn any of the stuff I was being taught. And I didn't learn that way. I learned hands-on. I learned from trial and error. And most people, not most people, some people do. Some people like books.
Yes.
But I think that if you are categorized into the same as everyone else, then a lot of people are going to fail because the system's going to fail them, and then they end up going to be sort of a burden on the system because they've not made it, because they've never had the support in the beginning. So there should be better support at the beginning.
Basically trying to judge a fish by climbing a tree.
Yeah.
The analogy
Yeah.
of, I think it's Albert Einstein.
Yeah.
So yes, I think as long as there's more options, I think it's perfect then.
Yeah.
Because as long as if you like English, you go to English. If you like business, go to
business.
entrepreneurship, I would say, and actually start a business, do something practical, because there's too much theory and you never take any real life actions. But moving on to the next question, which is the last question. What are your top 3 books for self-improvement?
Oh, this is a really good one. It's definitely got to be Rich Dad Poor Dad straight off the bat, because if you don't have a good understanding of money, then you're going to struggle your entire life.
Yes.
So Rich Dad Poor Dad, 100%. I really do like definitely the 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma.
Okay.
This is a must read, because unless you've got a solid morning routine and evening routine, as much as people say that you don't need that to be rich, you don't. 100% for
Without
richness.
a routine,
yeah.
I think your life is a mess. And
Yes.
we have always spoken about this, me and my content manager, we always speak about this, how without a routine, we always everything falls
into
apart.
bad habits.
Yeah.
And one bit of like lack of discipline in one area of your life can have such a massive magnitude scale on everything else you do.
Yeah.
So I think that people that you can be rich without needing a fancy morning routine. You don't have to do cold showers and all this to be rich. Absolutely. Yeah. But just because they make loads of money doesn't mean they're happy.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it's like hand in hand now. I want to make loads of money, but I also want to be like very happy and content and fulfilled. So I think morning routine, 5 a.m. Club, can't go wrong with that. And number 3, I've not really read that many books to be fair anymore, but
I mean, even a podcast, I guess. Top 3.
Yeah.
So include one podcast.
I would say Gary V's podcast.
Gary V's podcast.
I would say Gary V's podcast. I've only recently found Stephen Bartlett's one, but I'd say Gary V's one.
Yeah, I think that's a podcast
because he just cuts the fluff out, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He speaks.
It's
the
all
truth.
straight. It's like a short podcast, and it's straight to the point. Yeah, there's no going all the way around and round and round. But overall, really good questions answered. Really love them.
Really good questions.
I got to learn a lot of stuff as well. And moving on to the final part of the podcast, and that is the question, which is, what's one piece of advice you would give to someone who wants to start but fear is stopping them?
Do it anyway.
Do it anyway.
Yeah, I think if fears are in your mind, you've got to do it anyway, because you're going to regret not doing it.
Yeah, when you're in your deathbed at
you will
70, 90.
Yeah, or even earlier. They say like most people die when they're 25 and they're buried at like 70, 80, right?
Yeah.
Because you know, the biggest place where there's the most amount of dreams is the graveyard, because people take them to their grave. What's the point of trading 20K a year to be comfortable than your dream? Even if you end up working a terrible job or something you don't enjoy, just so you can still work on your dream, I would do that. I wouldn't try chase more money in the corporate ladder unless that's what you really want to do. And another thing I've recently learned, and I kind of spoke about this before, was I would do the bare minimum. I spent a lot, sorry for all my previous employers, but I did the bare minimum there in some respect, because I was building businesses. So when I used to work at Wetherspoons, I spent a lot of time in the toilet. I took a lot of toilet breaks. I was finding stuff on Facebook Marketplace to flip. When I was at David Lloyd, I was trying to build my YouTube channel and stuff.
Yeah. Basically just going for it. Thank you so much for that. And guys, if you have no idea where to find Lars, all his descriptions for the social medias will be in the description of this podcast. And if you're watching or listening on Spotify or other podcast platforms, it'll be in the notes. So I'll just add that all here. And thank you once again, Lars, for joining the podcast.
Thanks for having me, man.
And I think it was incredible. It was incredible. A lot of lessons I have learned personally as well. And
just before we end the podcast off, I think we should give a bonus out, and I think we should ask Jax a question, which should be, what piece of advice would you give to anyone starting out?
My piece of advice is, I'm going to try and give a different one, because I was just about to say, just go for it. But I think if you're just starting out, don't worry about what people are going to say, because there's going to be a lot of people who will doubt you, who will judge you. And I've had that. It will be your own cousins, your own friends, your own family. But as long as you believe in yourself, you will see greatness eventually. Yeah. And that might take a year, might take 2 years, might take 3 years, but just stick to it. And yes, it's harder to stick to it, but if you can have some type of cash flow, like a job on the side, to keep putting that money into whatever you want to do, right? If that's you starting a YouTube channel, you starting a business, just keep a job or something which can provide you some income and just keep going, because that
peace
way,
of mind as well. It gives you peace of mind.
Yes. And I think one thing the reason why I got successful, if
you got successful, yeah.
you did. I got successful was because I had the peace of mind that I have a job And that let me do the things, take the risk, keep my parents happy because they knew I have a job as well. And I was doing my stuff. And that really helped me out a lot. And most people think that, oh, I'm going to leave my job. I'm going to go all in my business. And then 2 months later, they have no money. And they're like,
that was me.
Yeah. But you done it really well, though.
I did it kind of, but it's taken me a lot longer to get to where I got to.
I think there's people who can argue with my point is that if you go all in, your human survival instinct will start kicking in and you will do something to make money eventually. But I think if you want to
There's no right or wrong answer, but I think the safest approach and the one that will give you the most peace of mind is what Jat said. Yeah. Keep something that gives you steady cash flow. It also keeps people off your back because you're like, well, I've still got money coming in, so what are you going to say? Whereas I didn't have that and people be like, just get a job. Just give up. Just get a job. No, I didn't want to get a job.
Yes, 100%. I think for me, I realized that on the day when I was watching that computer screen and a lady was screaming to me over the phone that my computer is not working and I'm trying to fix it, I knew this wasn't for me.
Yeah,
I'm not going to be get shouted by someone just because I'm trying to do something. And I'm like, okay, I'm living my life on my own terms, doing the stuff I want to do, wake up when I want, take a lunch break whenever I want. And ever since that day,
you're spending your most valuable commodity the wisest way possible.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
And likewise. So thank you once again, Lars. It was lovely to have you. And I'm looking forward to see your journey even bigger to the road to 1 million followers as well, even though it's just vanity matrix. But I'm looking forward to see that.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah. Thank you once again. And guys, I'll see you in the next podcast.